Yo, what is up, everybody? It's DFS Dudes back with another edition of the Deep Dive. It's been a minute since we've done the Deep Dive for MLB. Been putting NFL together. A ton of content we're rolling out. Perfect time to take advantage of our annual membership sale, our NFL kickoff special. Use promo code NFL 2019 at checkout and get an entire year for $175. That's all sports, one membership. NFL, MLB, NBA, NASCAR, PGA, MMA, all of it. Cash game lineups, a ton of content, podcasts, video breakdowns, and our complete optimizer, which allows you to build as many or as few lineups as you'd like. It's completely comprehensive. You can lock, exclude players, build your own player pool, optimize lineups around that, take the picks from the content, move them into the optimizer, optimize lineups around that, or just do your own thing. So all of that, all of the content, all sports, all of our tools, one annual membership, $175. Use use promo code NFL 2019 at checkout. Let's get into today's MLB slate, a full slate of games on a Tuesday, and it feels like there's only a couple of days to play MLB now with the NFL upon us. You know, you've got Monday Night Football, Thursday Night Football, Sunday Night Football, and then you've got a full slate of games on Sundays, obviously. So baseball taking a back seat. If you're going to keep playing baseball, you've got to be an absolute daily fantasy grinder to keep, wanting to roll out entries into Major League Baseball contests. But there's a ton of money to be made. There's nice tournaments on both sides, so let's get into it. First of all, from a pitching standpoint, look, Justin Verlander, he's on the hill tonight. You've got Yu Darvish, Sonny Gray, Patrick Corbin. So there's a whole host of starters, big name starters. And then Brandon Woodruff will return from an oblique injury that's kept him out since late July. He did record strong numbers prior to suffering the injury. I mean, look, 3.75 ERA in 25 games is 11-3. This guy throws really hard, and had a ton of quality starts. He had 10 quality starts out of his 25 games pitched, and a ton of strikeout upside, as many as 12 against Cincinnati, 10 against Pittsburgh. He had 10 against Philadelphia. And, throughout the season, he had the 6 and the 7 and the 9 strikeout games where he only gave up a couple of earned runs. It got you a win and a quality start. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of limit he's on. I think we really have to take a wait-and-see approach to him. But let's get into the slate. Seattle's at Pittsburgh. Marco Gonzalez against Mitch Keller. Toronto's at Baltimore. Trent Thornton against Chandler Shepard. The Giants will make their way to Fenway Park. Kind of a cool story here. Nathan Eovaldi against Logan Webb. Logan Webb, this guy, he's done well this year. 6 games, he's 1-2. He does have a very high ERA at 6.75. No quality starts, but 4 2/3, 4 strikeouts. 5 2/3, 7 strikeouts. He's got some solid starts at $5,600. We do have a Coors Field game on the slate. The only downside here, it's a rookie, it's Fenway Park, and there's going to be a lot of attention around Giants outfielder Mike Yastrzemski. And if you don't know the story, well, I'll briefly cover it. Yastrzemski, yes, that Yastrzemski. Carl Yastrzemski, that's his grandfather. He's going to play in Boston. He says it's going to be a pretty emotional thing for him to play there tonight. A cool thing for him to play there tonight. So throw him in a lineup or two. You never know. Detroit at Cleveland. And you got Plutko going against Zach Reiniger. I mean, Cleveland looks to be in a pretty good spot here. Plutko, on the other hand, 18 games started. Does have 7 quality starts. He's 6-4. But, I mean, the thing about Plutko is that every time he's supposed to pitch good, he doesn't. He does have a good outing against Detroit previously, the end of August 27th. He went 5 2/3, struck out 9, gave up 1 earned run, got you a win, got you a quality start, but only 47 fantasy points. I'm saying that facetiously. You look at the rest of his starts, and it's just a mixed bag. I mean, 16 against Anaheim, 7 against Tampa Bay, 15 against Minnesota, 10 against Kansas City, 4 against Detroit, July 15th, 5 1/3, 5 earned runs. So, Plutko is not a guy that I really want to get behind. Um, Philadelphia, they'll go into Atlanta today. You've got Keuchel, you've got Vince Velasquez. Keuchel's price on FanDuel up to 8,900, and rightfully so. I mean, let's look at his last 5 or 6 starts against the Mets on August 14th. 6 innings, 7 strikeouts, no earned runs, 43 fantasy points. Follows it up going 6 against Miami, striking out 7, giving up 1 earned run. Against the Mets again, goes 7 innings, 7 strikeouts, no earned runs. Pitches against the White Sox, another 6-inning start. Against Washington, another 6-inning start. Against Philadelphia, another 6-inning start. Let's not forget that Keuchel didn't have spring training. He didn't have spring training. So, is Keuchel starting to come into his own? It would look, since about really the beginning of August, he could throw out the start against Miami where he went 3 2/3. But if you just go back to August 3rd, against Cincinnati, 7 innings, 4 strikeouts, 3 earned runs, got a quality start, 28 fantasy points. Throw out the Miami start on August 8th, and since then he's gone at least 6 innings in every outing. It's a tough start against Philadelphia, but it's a guy who's really pitching well right now. Vince Velasquez, on the other hand, a guy that I've recommended stacking against all year long. Velasquez is just not a guy that I think is a real complete pitcher. He's really struggled to be consistent. He does have strikeout upside. He has struck out at least 5 hitters in each of his last 3 starts, but he hasn't made it past the 5th inning in those 3 starts. So Velasquez at 6,300 would be a 100% flyer play in GPPs, and I don't like using him more than I like using Atlanta. So Martin Perez will go for Minnesota against Ross Detwiller. Detwiller, another guy that's an absolute gas can. 15 games this year. He's 2-5 with a 6.79 ERA. 2 2/3 against Cleveland in his last outing, -4 fantasy points. He lasted a third of an inning against Atlanta. 3 earned runs, -8 fantasy points. This guy's not a good pitcher. Should be a really chalky spot for Minnesota, who just mashes every single pitcher they face, it seems like. The Padres in Milwaukee, the return of Brandon Woodruff. Chris Paddock will go for San Diego. I like Paddock, man. I've liked this guy all year long. I'm not a big fan of this price at 8,700, but he deserves it given his last 3 starts. 7 innings against the Giants, 8 strikeouts, an earned run, a win, a quality start. 5 1/3 at Arizona, 8 strikeouts, no earned runs. And then 6 innings against the Cubs, 7 strikeouts, got a win, got a quality start, 49 fantasy points. He deserves the price tag. Tougher environment, but no Yelich in this lineup. Washington's at St. Louis, Patrick Corbin against Miles Mikolas. I'm always a little bit iffy on Patrick Corbin in situations like this. This is a pretty dominant right-handed lineup that St. Louis will throw out there. The strikeouts have not been there consistently over, I'd say, the last month and a half. He's had some games where he's struck out 8. He does have a 9 strikeout game, but he has mixed in these 3 strikeout, 4 strikeout, a 5 strikeout, another 5 strikeout outing at 9,700 with Coors Field in the slate, going against a predominantly right-handed lineup. I'm just not a big fan of this spot for Corbin. But look, it's Patrick Corbin. The guy goes 6 innings and seems like he gets you a quality start every single time he goes out. It's a big thing that we talk about, kind of the 3 boxes we try to check off. Can a guy go 5 and qualify for a win? Can he go 6 and get us the bonus points of the win and the quality start if he qualifies? And then the strikeout upside. He definitely checks all 3 boxes. I'm just not a fan of the price tag for Corbin going against this Cardinals team that's a dominant right-handed lineup with a lot of power in it, for a Cardinals team that frankly has heated up over the last month of the season. So Corbin's a guy that if Coors Field wasn't on the slate, in tournaments I'd get some exposure to him, but with Coors Field on this slate, I kind of want to go elsewhere. I think it's a risky play. I'm fine with it in tournaments. It just has to be at a lower exposed rate for me with some of the other guys that are on the slate as well. So Cincinnati's at Chicago, Yu Darvish and Sonny Gray. Darvish priced 10,400. Didn't think Darvish would get this high this year, but again, here's a guy that take a look at the last month and a half of the season. Go back to July 30th, 6 innings, 6 hits, 9 strikeouts, 43 fantasy points, and that's kind of been what he's done since the middle of July. 10 strikeouts August 15th against Philadelphia, 14 strikeouts against the Padres September 12th, 70 fantasy points, at least 7 strikeouts in each of his last 10 starts. Ton of upside. He's gone into the 6th inning almost every single time. Only twice where he went 5 1/3, and against Milwaukee he went 5. Outside of that, he's made it through the 6th inning. He's pitched into the 7th once, pitched into the 8th once. Darvish pitching really well. And, he faces Sonny Gray here. So what would worry me is maybe qualifying for the win. I think he can definitely get you the quality start. He's got the strikeout upside, but going against in another tough matchup against Gray. And then at 10-4 with Coors Field on the slate, and Houston at home against Texas. Some good hitting environments tonight. Texas is at Houston. Justin Verlander against Lance Lynn. Lance Lynn, man, I don't think you could say enough about what this guy's done for Texas in this rotation. 19 quality starts and 30 outings this year. He's 14-10 with a 3.72 ERA, 216 strikeouts, a 1.25 whip, 216 strikeouts in 188 innings pitched, only 179 hits in those 188 innings pitched. A really good leverage contrarian play today is Lance Lynn. I think people will get on the other side of this. I think people will take Verlander and they'll look at some other spots. A little bit of a savings from those guys, again, with Coors Field on the slate. You look at his recent form, against Tampa, 7 strikeouts, an earned run, a quality start, 43 fantasy points his last outing. He's just pitched really solid for Texas this year. He's been one of the 2 bright spots with Mike Minor. They've pitched well. So, Lance Lynn, Verlander, there's not a lot we need to say about Verlander. His price is $12,000. He's got 24 quality starts out of 31 appearances. He's 18-6 with a 2.58. He has 275 strikeouts in 206 innings pitched and only given up 123 hits. Verlander's been really, really good this year. And you just take a look. Let's go all the way back to the middle of July. 12 strikeouts against Texas, 11 against Oakland, 13 against Cleveland, 10 against Seattle, 11 against Baltimore, 11 against Oakland, 11 against Detroit, 14 against Toronto, and 11 against Oakland. That's impressive. That's impressive. Only 2 of those outings he didn't qualify for a quality start, going 5 1/3 against Tampa. No earned runs, only struck out 4, did get the win. And then Baltimore, he goes 5 innings, scatters 9 hits, gives up 4 earned runs, strikes out 11. Not a real quality start there. He kind of worked his way through that on a Sunday afternoon. So Verlander, this is your cash game guy to me. Figure out a way to fit some value around it and get some Coors exposure. But, you can't ask for a better floor for a cash game lineup than Verlander. We just kind of covered it with the strikeout upside over the past month and a half. Moving on, the Mets are at Colorado. Marcus Stroman against Tim Melville. There should be some runs scored in this one. Melville's 2-2 in 5 games, 1 quality start. The one quality start was at Arizona. Okay, you want to take a look at what he's done pitching at Coors Field. So, away from Coors Field, 12 2/3 innings pitched, 7 hits, 12 strikeouts, 3 earned runs, 2 wins, 1 quality start, 40 fantasy points, 41 fantasy points. At Coors Field, 17 innings pitched, a whole bunch of hits. He's given up 8 earned runs. He's given up 11 earned runs, no wins, no quality starts, -3, -6, an okay start where he went 5 innings against Atlanta on August 26th and got 33 fantasy points at Coors Field. Outside of that, he's not been good. Not at Coors Field. Stroman, 6,700, 8 wins, 13 losses. Don't use Stroman here. It's Coors Field, man. Don't use Stroman. Miami's at Arizona. Alex Young. Man, I like this guy. He'll go against Caleb Smith. Alex Young, I just think this guy's going to be a really good pitcher in the coming years. He's got really good stuff. 14 games, he's 7-4, 5 quality starts, only 61 strikeouts. That's over 69 in third innings pitched. A rough outing in his last one at the Mets. 3 strikeouts, 1 earned runs, only 2 2/3. Got into some trouble. But the start before that at Cincinnati showed his upside. Great American Small Park. He goes in there, 8 innings pitched, gives up 2 hits, walks 1 guy, strikes out 12, gets you a win, a quality start, and 70 fantasy points. He's got a ton of upside, man. In a matchup going against Miami here, I like him tonight. 8,200 feels like a really good price. Kansas City's at Oakland. Brett Anderson against Jorge Lopez. Neither of these pitchers are in play for me. I'll move on. And then the last game of the night, Tampa Bay is at the Dodgers. Blake Snell, the other pitcher here, who is set to make his return from the disabled list. He's not really stretched out, is what they're saying. He'll throw around 3 innings. Look, I mean, it's 7,100. If you want to take a flyer on this in tournaments because Coors Field is on the slate, I wouldn't have a problem with it. Blake Snell has a ton of strikeout upside. He could really pay off at his $7,100 price tag on FanDuel. As a SP2 on DK, we've used openers before in that spot. Blake Snell at 7,100 on FanDuel. I'd have to look and see what his price is on DK. I don't have it in front of me. But as an SP2, I mean, yes, it's the Dodgers. Understand that. And yes, I'm telling you to do this in a tournament, not in a cash game. But as an SP2, if he's going to pitch 3 innings, he can strike out 4 to 6 guys. And at that price tag, I mean, that's a great SP2 on DK. It's a great tournament play on FanDuel with Coors Field on the slate. So Snell will go 3. Stripling will go for the Dodgers. He's 5,500. The thing about Stripling is, if you take a look at what he's done, only a couple of times this year has he gone into the 5th inning. They kind of use him as an opener or an extended opener, if you will. You know, his last 3 starts, he went 3 against Arizona, 2 against Colorado, 3 against Baltimore. I don't like this like I like Snell because I think Snell's got some significant upside if he's right, and they're going to let him throw 3 innings. I think Snell can come in there and just kind of cut it loose for 3 innings and see how he feels. And with him cutting it loose, one of 2 things is going to happen, and that's what makes it a tournament play. He's either going to get waxed or he'll knock some people down. And that's kind of what you're betting on. I don't have the same feeling about Stripling. So from a pitching standpoint, look, Justin Verlander, in my opinion, you can't get a better floor. Woodruff, we don't know what they'll do there. The price of 10-1 for Woodruff, I'm going to pass on that. Darvish, you know, the floor seems to be there. Gray, the floor seems to be there. Corbin, I don't really like in this spot against a right-handed lineup in the Cardinals. Dallas Keuchel, kind of the dark knight pick here, if you will. And then Alex Young at 8,200. I do like him. Blake Snell is really an upside, more of a SP2 type play, tournament upside play. But that's kind of where I'm at. I mean, it's a pretty straightforward night in pitching. Verlander, Darvish, Gray, Corbin, Lance Lynn, Dallas Keuchel, Alex Young. Those are really your targets. From a stacks standpoint on this slate, I mean, it's a 14-game slate. It's got Coors Field on it. The Mets have an implied total of 7.4. The Rockies have an implied total of 6.2. You got to like the Boston Red Sox tonight going against Logan Webb. You've got to like Minnesota. You've got to like Cleveland a whole lot. I really like Atlanta against Velasquez. I think some late night exposure to the Oakland Athletics. You know, that gives us 6 stacks right there. And I would kind of fill it out maybe with a little bit of the Dodgers, just because we don't really know what will happen there. And a little bit of a dark horse here for me is the San Francisco Giants. I think it's a very interesting play today. Very interesting play. It's a short porch. It's Boston. You're feeling pretty good that your teammate, you know, is going to make a return there. It's Evaldi. He's been all over the place for the last 7 months. You could get into that bullpen a little bit. I just think it's a really dark horse type play, very contrarian, very under the radar, very low own. Nobody's going to own this. And then the other one for me is the White Sox. Yeah, I was a big Martin Perez guy early in the season. That was early in the season. Outside of a start against Detroit on August 25th, where he had 37 fantasy points, he went 6 innings, only giving up 2 earned runs. He hasn't struck out more than 6 guys since June 16th. Against Kansas City, he struck out 7. I think that with Perez, what really happened is he kind of reinvented himself a little bit a la Marco Gonzalez for Seattle. Left-handed pitcher, adds a cutter to his repertoire. It makes his fastball look a little bit better. It's a different pitch. But I think as scouting reports have evolved over the course of the season, the way he's trying to get guys out, locate the fastball away, throw the cutter in. I think guys are sitting on pitches against him, looking for something to drive. And if he gets a little wild, which that's kind of what his downfall has been. I mean, you take a look early in the season when he was really good, 1 walk or 2 walks, and then, you can go all the way back to the Tampa Bay start where he gave up 6 hits in 4 2/3, in 2 2/3, and just got waxed. He hasn't really been the same since. Kind of puts up 20 to 25 fantasy points. If it's a really good outing for him, you get to 37, but they're few and far between. So the White Sox, to me, and again, if you're going to load the White Sox up, you're kind of looking at that same cast of characters. Abreu, Moncada, Eloy Jimenez. That's who I'd build my stack around. Tim Anderson. Those would be the 4 real guys that I would build that stack around. Maybe McCann, mix him in there a little bit. But, I'm not going real deep here with them. Leroy Garcia's leading off. Those are probably the guys that I'm building my stack with. But that's a real deep dive with those 2 teams that are going to be pretty low owned, in my opinion, tonight. And look, with Coors Field on the slate, you've got to figure out a way to find some value. You got Evan Longoria, 3,300. Yastrzemski's 3,200. Pilar's 3,100. Brandon Belt, 3,000. Mauricio Dubon is 2,900. Vogt, he's 2,700. These guys are all in play to me. With the White Sox, you've got the same kind of deal. Abreu's 4,000, granted, and Moncada's 3,800. But Tim Anderson at 3,500, very affordable. James McCann at 2,900, very affordable. Leroy Garcia leading off today, 2,700. I think that's a pretty good cash game target, to be honest with you, is Leroy Garcia at 2,700 leading off against Perez. He's a switch hitter. He'll bat right-handed. He's been really pesky this year. He's got 276 batting average. He's thrown fantasy points up in each of his last 10 games. In those 10 games, let me rephrase that. He has not thrown fantasy points up in only 2 of his last 10 games. Very consistent. Switch hitter. I think it's a good cash game play. It gives you some value. But look, there should be some runs at Coors Field tonight. And you're going to have to figure out a way to get a top pitching option because we've got plenty of them tonight. With some Coors Field exposure, I really think that the Giants and the White Sox can put some runs up, and there's some good value there as well. So that's really where I'm at. Those are the teams I'm stacking today. Those are the pitchers I'm using. Until next time, be cool, keep it cashing. Peace out.